Okay, so you want to own a gym. You can already see it. You walk in at 6 in the morning, before the city's even awake, and the lights hum on row by row. The rubber floor still smells faintly of chalk and cleaning spray. Sunlight cuts across the squat racks. Your members start filing in, the regulars who nod at you by name, the nervous new January face clutching a water bottle, the retiree who does the same 20-minute walk on the treadmill every single day and thanks you for changing their life. You built this. A community. A temple of iron and sweat and self-improvement. And the money? Well, the money feels almost secondary, because people pay you every single month, automatically, whether they show up or not. Recurring revenue. Passive income. A cash machine wearing gym shorts. You picture yourself on the floor, coffee in hand, spotting someone on a bench press, being the healthiest, most respected person in the neighborhood, and getting paid for it. That's the picture. That's what the fitness influencers and the franchise brochures sell you. Here's the problem. Most of the people who buy that dream lose money. Not a little money. Gyms have one of the quietly brutal failure profiles in small business: thin margins, punishing fixed costs, and a customer who is actively trying to stop paying you. The equipment that looks so gleaming? It's a depreciating liability that people slam, drop, and sweat into 8 hours a day. The recurring revenue? It's also a recurring reason for people to call their bank and dispute the charge every January 2nd. The rent never sleeps. The air conditioning bill in July will make you physically ill. And the community you build will walk across the street the moment a shinier box opens with a lower price and a smoothie bar. So let me reframe the whole thing for you right now, because everything else in this video hangs on it. A gym is not really a fitness business. It is not really a health business. It is a subscription business, closer to Netflix or an insurance company than to a personal trainer that happens to have dumbbells sitting inside it. And the second you understand that, the entire economics flips inside out. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly where the money in a gym actually comes from, why the busiest looking gyms are sometimes the ones going broke, why the most profitable gym in your town might be the one that's half empty, and why the smart operators quietly pray you'll keep paying and never, ever walk through their doors. Before we talk about money, we need to talk about what a gym actually is. Because gym is one of those words that hides 4 or 5 completely different businesses wearing the same costume. Some gyms are what the industry calls high value, low price, the HVLP model. Think Planet Fitness. $10 a month, 25,000 square feet, rows and rows of cardio machines, no classes worth mentioning, and a business model built on selling far more memberships than the building could ever physically hold. Some gyms are the opposite, boutique studios. Your SoulCycle, your Orange Theory, your CrossFit Box. Small footprint, high price, $30, $40, $200 a month, selling not access but an experience and a class schedule. Some are full-service health clubs, the big multi-purpose clubs with pools and saunas and basketball courts and a juice bar, chasing families and charging a premium for square footage. And some are the classic independent free-weight gym, the hardcore bodybuilding warehouse, the local iron house, run on passion and razor-thin margins. Here's the thing, these are not variations of the same business. They are secretly different businesses with different customers, different cost structures, and completely different ways of making, or losing, money. A CrossFit Box is a coaching business. A full-service club is a real estate business. Planet Fitness is a financing and breakage business. Lumping them together is like saying a food truck and a Michelin restaurant are the food industry. Technically true. Financially useless. For most of this video, I'm going to focus on the standard membership gym, the mid-sized independent or franchise club, somewhere between the $10 box and the boutique studio, because that's the one most people actually dream about owning, and it's the one where the hidden economics are most instructive. We'll come back to the others, because the smart money plays in the gaps between them. So let's talk about the biggest number first. The entry cost. Opening a gym is not cheap, and the range is enormous depending on which of those businesses you're actually building. A small independent gym in a modest lease space might cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to a couple $100,000 to get open. A franchise is a different animal. According to franchise disclosure documents, an Anytime Fitness location typically runs somewhere from around $100,000 to roughly $800,000 all in. An Orange Theory studio has been reported in the range of roughly $600,000 to over $1.5 million. And a full-size Planet Fitness, the big box, has estimated total investments that can run from around $1.5 million up past $5 million once you factor in the build-out and the equipment package. Now, here's the lesson buried in those numbers, and it's a lesson that applies to almost every business we'll ever cover on this channel. The price to get in and the ability to make a profit are two completely different numbers. They are not the same thing. Read that again. A cheap gym to open can be a terrible business. An expensive one can be a cash cow. The entry cost tells you what it takes to unlock the door. It tells you almost nothing about whether money will actually come out the other side. People fixate on the entry cost because it's the scary, concrete number at the front. The real danger is everything that comes after it, the costs nobody puts in the spreadsheet. Because here's what they don't show you. The purchase price or the build-out is just the cover charge. The real bleeding starts with a hidden infrastructure that nobody budgets for this costs. And I want to walk through these in order because the sequence is how they'll actually hit you. First, the equipment. And not just buying it, this is the trap. A full set of commercial-grade equipment for a mid-sized gym can run you anywhere from around $100,000 to $300,000 or more. Commercial treadmills alone can be several $1,000s each, and you need a wall of them. But here's the part people miss. This equipment is not an asset that holds value. It's a consumable. A commercial treadmill under heavy daily use might last 5 to 7 years before the motor and deck are shot. Cardio machines are the first to die because they have moving parts and they run for hours. So you're not buying equipment once. You're signing up for a permanent replacement cycle, and you either pay cash for it upfront or you lease it and pay interest forever. Either way, that gleaming floor is quietly falling apart from the day you open. Second, the build-out, the stuff behind the walls. Gyms are brutal on a building. You need reinforced flooring so half a ton of iron doesn't crack the slab. You need serious HVAC, because a room full of 100 people breathing hard generates an astonishing amount of heat and humidity, and if your air handling can't keep up, your gym smells like a locker room and members quit. You need proper ventilation, upgraded electrical for all those machines, plumbing for showers and bathrooms that get hammered. Commercial contractors will tell you that a fitness build-out can run anywhere from $50 to over $200 per square foot depending on the market and how much you're changing. On a 15,000 square foot space, do that math. It's not small. Third, the deposits and the dead time. When you sign a commercial lease, landlords often want first month, last month, and a security deposit up front, and gyms are considered high-risk tenants, so they may want more. Then there's the killer that new owners always underestimate, the free rent gap that isn't free. You're often paying rent for months during build-out and pre-opening, before a single member has paid you a single dollar. You're bleeding cash before a single treadmill turns on, before a single membership is sold, before a single light comes on for a paying customer. And fourth, the working capital, the cushion. Because a new gym does not fill up on day one. It takes months, sometimes a year or two, to build a membership base big enough to cover your costs. During that ramp, you're paying full rent, full utilities, full staff, and full loan payments against a fraction of the revenue. Experienced operators will tell you to have 6 months to a year of operating expenses in the bank before you open. Most first-timers don't. That's why so many gyms die not because the idea was bad, but because they ran out of runway before the base got big enough. They were right, they were just early, and broke. Okay, so now you're open. The equipment's in, the rent's paid, the doors are unlocked. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this is the single mechanism that explains everything about how a gym actually makes money. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. A gym does not make money from people using the gym. A gym makes money from people paying for the gym and not using it. Let that land for a moment. The entire economics of a membership gym is built on a controlled gap between how many people pay and how many people actually show up. The industry has a quiet word for this. In the subscription world, it's sometimes called breakage, the revenue you collect for a service that never gets consumed. Studies and industry reporting over the years have consistently found that a large share of gym members, often cited around half, and by some estimates even more, rarely or never use their memberships. Think about the people you know. Think about January. Think about the treadmill that becomes a coat rack. Every one of those people is, from the gym's perspective, the perfect customer. They pay. They don't cost you anything. They don't wear out your machines. They don't use your hot water. They don't need your staff's attention. They just quietly fund your business from home. Here's how stark it gets. A big box gym like a Planet Fitness location is designed and priced around the idea that it will sell memberships far beyond its physical capacity. It's been widely reported that these clubs can have several thousand members per location. Figures in the range of 6,000 to 8,000 or more have been cited, in a building that could not possibly fit even a fraction of them at once. If even 20% of them showed up at the same time, the fire marshal would shut you down and there'd be a line out the door and members would quit in a rage. The business only works because they don't. The model is a bet, a mathematically sound, coldly reliable bet, that most of the people paying you will stay home. That's not a fitness business. That's an insurance business. An insurance company collects premiums from everyone and pays out to only a few. A gym collects dues from everyone and gets used by only a few. Same math. Same magic. The customer who never shows up is not a failure of the model. The customer who never shows up is the model. So now you understand the engine. Let's talk about how the money actually comes in, because it arrives in layers, and the healthiest gyms are the ones that stack all of them. The first layer is the base membership, the monthly dues. This is your foundation, predictable, recurring, and, thanks to breakage, far more profitable per dollar than it looks. But base memberships alone are usually a thin margin grind, especially at the low price end. If all you have is $10 memberships, you need thousands of them just to keep the lights on. The second layer is where the real profit often hides: personal training and coaching. This is high margin gold. When a member pays for a trainer, the gym typically keeps a meaningful cut of a session that might be priced anywhere from $40 to over $100, and the only cost is a slice of the trainer's time. For many mid-sized and boutique gyms, personal training and small group coaching aren't a side hustle, they're the difference between profit and loss. The membership gets people in the door. The training is what actually feeds the owner. The third layer is classes and premium tiers. Upsells. The higher-priced membership that includes classes, the Black Card style tier that adds perks, guest privileges, tanning, massage chairs, whatever it is. Each tier is a way to extract more from the members who value the place most, without adding much cost. And the fourth layer is ancillary revenue, the little streams. Supplements and protein shakes. Branded apparel. Vending machines. Locker rentals. Day passes for travelers. Late fees and annual maintenance fees. And by the way, that annual fee, the one that hits your card once a year for equipment maintenance, is often pure margin dressed up as a service charge. None of these are huge on their own. Stacked together, they can be the thin layer of profit sitting on top of a business that otherwise just breaks even. So far, so good. Money in 4 layers, powered by an engine that runs on absence. Now let's talk about the money going out, every single day, whether you have a good month or a bad one. Rent is usually the beast. For a gym, occupancy cost, rent plus the taxes and insurance and maintenance the landlord passes through, is often one of the 2 largest line items, and it never, ever stops. You pay it on the empty January afternoon and the packed New Year's morning exactly the same. Then labor. Front desk staff, cleaners, managers, trainers. Even a lean gym needs bodies to cover operating hours, and if your hours are long, some gyms run staff most of the day, the payroll adds up fast. Labor is often neck and neck with rent for the top spot on your cost sheet. Then utilities, and this one shocks people. A gym is an energy hog. All those machines, all that lighting, and above all the HVAC fighting to cool a hot, humid, crowded room and heat all that shower water. Electricity and water and gas for a mid-sized club can easily run into thousands of dollars a month, and it spikes exactly when you're busiest and when it's hottest outside. That July electric bill is a rite of passage. Then repairs and maintenance, the endless small bleed. Something is always broken. A treadmill belt, a cable machine, a broken bathroom stall, a torn upholstery pad. Members notice broken equipment instantly and it drives cancellations, so you can't ignore it. You're either paying a service contract or paying per visit, and either way it's a constant. Then insurance, and gyms need a lot of it. Liability insurance for a business whose entire purpose is people lifting heavy things and running fast is not cheap. One serious injury claim, one slip on a wet floor, and you'll be very glad you paid those premiums. And then the quiet ones, software and billing systems, music licensing. Yes, you generally need a license to play music in a commercial space, marketing to replace the members you're constantly losing, cleaning supplies, laundry for towels, property taxes, franchise royalties if you're a franchise, and the loan payment on all that equipment and build-out. Each one small. All of them together, relentless. Now here's where it gets dangerous. Because on top of all those steady costs sits a structural risk that can break the entire model: churn and seasonality. Churn is the rate at which members quit. And gyms have brutal churn. The industry has long grappled with annual member turnover that can run very high. It's not unusual for a club to lose a huge share of its members over the course of a year and have to replace them just to stand still. Think about what that means. You're not just trying to grow. You're running up a down escalator. Every year, a big chunk of your base walks out the door, and your marketing budget exists just to refill the bucket that's constantly leaking. And it's seasonal, which makes it worse. The entire industry lives and dies by a calendar. January is a tidal wave. New Year's resolutions flood you with new signups, and for a few glorious weeks the place is packed and the revenue looks incredible. Then February comes. Then March. And the resolution crowd melts away. By summer, signups slow to a trickle while your air conditioning bill hits its peak. So your revenue is lumpy and front-loaded, but your costs are flat and relentless. You make hay in January and try not to starve in August. An owner who spends the January money like it's the normal run rate is an owner who's going to be terrified by September. Put those together, high fixed costs, high churn, seasonal revenue, and you have a business with almost no margin for error. A gym running healthy might clear a net profit margin somewhere in the low double digits if it's well run, plenty run far thinner, and a badly run one flips negative fast. It doesn't take much. A rent increase at renewal. A new competitor opening down the street and starting a price war. A big equipment failure. A soft January. Any one of them can push a break-even gym into a losing one, and because the fixed costs are so high, the fall from profit to loss can happen shockingly fast. Which brings me to the case study. Because if you want to understand how a gym empire can look invincible and then collapse, you don't have to imagine it. You can just look at what actually happened. Consider Gold's Gym. This is one of the most iconic names in the entire history of fitness. It started in Venice Beach, California, back in the 1960s, the original Mecca of bodybuilding, the place where a young Arnold Schwarzenegger trained, immortalized in the 1977 documentary Pumping Iron. That single gym launched a global brand. Gold's grew into a worldwide franchise operation with hundreds of locations across dozens of countries. The name was gold, literally. For decades it was synonymous with serious fitness. That's the rise. Iconic brand, global footprint, cultural legend. Now here's the decline. For all its brand power, Gold's was still, underneath the logo, a business made of gyms, with all the heavy fixed costs and thin margins we just walked through. And in 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic forced gyms across the country to shut their doors, the whole fragile structure got tested at once. Revenue stopped, but rent didn't. Payroll didn't. Debt didn't. And in May of 2020, Gold's Gym's parent company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The Mecca of bodybuilding, the brand Arnold built his legend in, forced into bankruptcy court. And it wasn't alone. That same year, 24 Hour Fitness, a massive chain with hundreds of clubs, filed for Chapter 11 as well, and closed a large number of locations in the process. Town Sports International, the parent of New York sports clubs and Boston sports clubs, filed for bankruptcy too. An entire tier of the industry, some of the biggest and most established names in American fitness, hit the wall in a matter of months. Now, you could say, that's not fair, that was a pandemic, a once-in-a-century shock. And you'd be partly right. But that's exactly the lesson. The pandemic didn't invent the weakness. It exposed it. It just pulled the revenue away for a few months and revealed what was underneath the whole time. Businesses with enormous fixed costs, significant debt, and thin cushions, where a sustained drop in members isn't a rough patch, it's a solvency event. The brand was iconic. The economics were still fragile. A famous name does not repeal the math. That's the lesson. When the busiest, most legendary gyms in the country can be knocked over by a few months of closed doors, you understand that the fitness part was never what made them safe. So if the economics are this hard, why do sophisticated people still get into this business and win? Because here's where it gets interesting. The smart money isn't really playing the game you think they're playing. Remember when I said a full-service club is secretly a real estate business? This is the deeper game. Some of the most successful gym operators in the world make their real money in ways that have almost nothing to do with monthly dues. The first deeper play is real estate itself. If you don't just rent your building but own it, the gym becomes a tenant that pays down a mortgage on an asset that may appreciate for decades. The gym might only break even on operations, but if the land and building under it are climbing in value the whole time, the owner is getting quietly rich on the real estate while the gym just barely covers itself. In that version, the gym isn't the investment. The gym is the thing that pays the mortgage on the investment. The second deeper play is the franchise model, the flip. This is what the smart operators in the low-price world figured out. The most valuable position isn't necessarily owning and running 100 gyms yourself, with all that operational headache. It's owning the brand and selling the franchises. When you franchise, other people put up the $1 million, take the operational risk, sweat the January churn, and pay you royalties and fees off the top, a percentage of their revenue, forever. You've turned a hard, thin-margin operating business into a high-margin licensing business. You're no longer in the gym business. You're in the business of selling the dream of the gym business to other people. And that, by the way, is a very good business. The third deeper play is the high-margin service stack on top of the membership base. The operators who thrive treat the membership almost as a loss leader, the thing that gets people through the door cheaply, and make their profit on personal training, coaching certifications, premium programs, and product. The gym is the funnel. The margin is everywhere else. And the fourth is the pure financial engineering of the breakage model itself, run at scale. When you truly master the low-price, high-volume game, sell to everyone, count on most of them staying home, keep the price low enough that canceling never feels urgent enough to bother, you can turn a warehouse full of underused equipment into an incredibly reliable, almost annuity-like stream of small monthly payments from tens of thousands of people. Do that across hundreds of locations and you don't have a gym. You have a financial instrument with squat racks in it. So let's bring it home the way we always do. Let me show you the good year and the bad year, because that gap is the whole business. The good year. It's January, and your marketing landed. Sign-ups are pouring in. Say you build to a healthy base of a couple thousand members at a mid-market price, and, critically, most of them don't come, so your equipment and staff aren't overwhelmed and your churn stays manageable. Your personal training program is humming, throwing off high-margin dollars. Your rent was locked in years ago at a good rate. Utilities are steep in summer, but you plan for it. At the end of the year, after rent, labor, utilities, repairs, insurance, and the loan, you clear a solid profit, maybe a healthy chunk on a business doing 7 figures of revenue, and the building you bought is worth more than you paid. On paper and in the bank, you won. The machine worked exactly as designed. The people who didn't show up paid for the people who did, and then some. The bad year. A competitor opens 2 blocks away and starts a price war, and to keep members you cut your prices, which means every one of your fixed costs now eats a bigger share of a smaller check. Churn creeps up because the new place is shinier. January was soft. Then your lease comes up for renewal and the landlord raises the rent, because they can. A main air handler dies in July and the replacement is 5 figures. An injury claim pushes your insurance premium up. Suddenly the same building, the same equipment, the same staff, are running at a loss every single month, and because your costs are so fixed and so high, there's almost nothing you can cut fast enough to stop the bleeding. You're not doing anything obviously wrong. The math just turned against you, quietly, line by line, until one day you're the one calling a bankruptcy attorney. Same gym, same floor, same iron, same lights humming on at 6 in the morning. The difference between the good year and the bad year isn't passion, and it isn't how much your members love you. It's rent, churn, breakage, and a handful of percentage points. It was always the numbers. So go back to that opening image. You, on the floor, coffee in hand, the healthiest and most respected person in the neighborhood, being paid to build a community around iron and sweat. That version is real. It exists. But it's the surface. It's the part of the business you can see from the treadmill. Underneath it is something colder and more interesting, a subscription machine that profits from absence, a real estate play wearing gym shorts, an insurance model where the customers you never meet are the ones keeping your lights on. The gleaming equipment isn't the asset. The community isn't the moat. The sweat on the floor isn't where the money is. The workout was never the business. The math was always the business.